Good morning, podcast listeners. This is Ed Franklin with the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. Thank you for joining me today. And like I always tell you, you can get a hold of me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. You can go to my social media or the most social media sites that I'm on, which is all of them, is pretty much. Or you can call me because my phone number is probably out there too. This podcast today is going to be kind of about all of us. And especially those of us that have some aspirations. And I know most of you do. You may not admit it, but there's always something you want to do. And I'll tell you a couple stories before we get started, and then we can kind of dig into it. A couple of years ago, I went to Piper's class, my granddaughter's class, and I think she was in maybe third grade at the time. And it was kind of this career day thing. And I was talking about selling promotional items and this and that, and kind of tell them about marketing. And these were little guys, and they kind of got most of it. But one of the things I did was I asked them all what they wanted to be when they grew up. And we got the I want to play football, I want to be a baseball player, I want to be a dancer, a singer. You get all the things that a third grader would tell you that we as at that age we have all these great thoughts, and then we lose those thoughts as we get older and reality sets in a little bit. But I don't even like saying that because we allow a life to get in our way and things like that, and don't chase our dreams all the time. But I can remember there was one little sweetest little boy sitting in the back of the room. Well, I should tell you, it took him about 15 minutes to get over my tattoos, all the questions about tattoos, and then we got down to the business. But there was just the sweetest little boy sitting in the back, and he had a little dress shirt on, and it was buttoned all the way to the top. And he told me that he wanted to work on computers, and I thought to myself, that's the guy all these kids are going to be working for, is this kid that wants to do, write code or work on computers or whatever. And it was really successful, and I left them some samples behind, some fun stuff they could take home with them. But the point to that story is that here these kids are talking about these big dreams they had when they were little. I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be an architect when I was like 13 years old, and I really liked drawing buildings and things like that. And I had a drawing board, and excuse me, and they had all kinds of things like that. And it's something I always wanted to do, and obviously never did it. But um, what do you guys want? What did you want when you were a little kid, and are you doing that now? Unfortunately, the answer is probably no, that you're not doing what you wanted to do back then. And that's kind of sad at some level. I worked with a guy in the HVAC business that we were talking one day, and I said, Larry, what did you want to do your whole life? I mean, here we are, sales guys selling exhaust fans and dampers and louvers and things. And he said he had gone to college to be a teacher, and he had his teaching credentials. But at the time when he wanted to be a teacher, he couldn't afford it with his family. They just didn't pay enough. So he got into sales instead. And you could see the regret in his face, and kind of the way his body language changed. And that's really sad to me, that we should really do what we want to do. And years ago, when I worked at Pepsi, I worked in special events, and we did a lot of work with high schools. We did a lot of work with air bands. You guys might remember those, where the kids get up and they impersonate a band. They don't play any music, but they it's an air band, so they like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. They look like they're playing the guitar, look like they're singing or whatever. And this thing got so big in San Diego County that at the Del Mar Fair they had the finals at the grandstand. And the other thing we used to do is we used to go out to and there's a point to this, believe me. I used to go out to basketball games at halftime in high school basketball games because we were the sponsor um, of the event, and I would throw T-shirts into the stands, and they would have contests during halftime that I would run. And so I've always had this in my blood to be an MC or a speaker or things like that. And I did it. I didn't get paid to do it. I just volunteered to do it. And I would get a lunch out of it here or there from the guy that was running, that worked for the schools that had them as an account. So I've always had this dream. And I wanted to do more speaking. I wanted to do motivational speaking. I used to listen to all these, Tony Robbins and all these guys, and always did, and always wanted to do it, but it didn't pan out. Well, I'm doing it now. And one come hell or high water, I'm going to get out there on stage and do something. And the reason for this podcast is because I I want to ask you a question. And the first question is, do you like being told no? Now, of course, that's a rhetorical question. I know nobody likes being told no. And as I've been to this job search and that I've been told no quite a few times. And I never mind being told no if I'm not qualified or uh, something that's legitimate. But when I get told no because I'm probably too old, or I might be overqualified, or I just get stuck in this AI world, that irritates me. And the other thing, that's what we're really going to talk about, is getting told that if I don't do things the way that somebody else wants me to do them, that I won't be successful. Now, imagine this. Imagine, let's say Steve Jobs or whoever invented the cell phone, right? Whoever did that. And they had this because everything gets invented twice, right? It gets invented in your mind and then it gets made. There's the second time. So imagine if all these people throughout history that were inventors, that invented cars or different types of motors or, anything you can think of that you're using on a daily basis, they had this idea. Just think if they would have been told, no, they can't do it. And they probably were. They probably were shunned. What do they say about Edison? That he came up with a light bulb. It was his thousandth time, the 1,000th time that he figured it out. He failed 999 times. And can you imagine how everybody thought how crazy he was when he was trying to invent these things? So let me back up just a little bit. I saw this awesome post on LinkedIn. I'm on social media all day. I'm on LinkedIn because I'm putting out my videos, I'm putting out podcasts, I'm doing things like that, and I'm also looking for work. And there's a lot of bad news on LinkedIn right now. The job market is probably the worst I've ever seen it, no doubt in my life, no doubt in my mind that it's the worst I've ever seen. And it's because so many people are getting laid off, and some of them because of AI, and they're crowding the job market. But a lot of them because I just don't know what these companies are up to. I mean, you'll go and look for a job on there and you'll click on a job and it has 200 applicants already and it's only been on, out there for a couple hours. And this woman, I don't know her, I just friended her on LinkedIn. Super, I can tell she's sharp just by the post she makes. She did this post about LinkedIn and how uh, in her opinion and in my opinion, LinkedIn was kind of a big, huge networking thing. It was like it wasn't Facebook. It was more professional platform where you could link up with different people from different companies. And they did have job. They have job search on there, and there's some really deep, good posts on there that are very professional in that. But it's also getting more like professional Facebook. You're starting to get a lot more personal information on there. But she wrote this post about Facebook, and I'm going to open it up so I don't make a mistake what I'm saying here. LinkedIn made $17.1 billion in revenue last year, the highest ever. That's a lot of money. Over 2 billion came from premium subscriptions, up more than 50%. So LinkedIn has a prescription you can buy, and I think it's $79 a month. And it's called premium or something. And I used to do it years ago. And I did it mostly because if you have premium, there's some added features to it that help you get connected to people you need to know. So if I had a company that I was trying to sell something to, I could go on there and I could find the players, right? The CEO or whoever's on LinkedIn, I could find that worked at that company. And a lot of times it would turn out that I actually knew somebody or had a connection to that person. And that's kind of what I use LinkedIn for. But now there's all these things that LinkedIn is hiding behind that subscription. Like if buy this prescription or subscription, you can get better job opportunities. You can get more contact with the people you need to do. So what they're doing is they're changing the algorithm. So they're forcing you into buying this subscription. It's kind of like Costco in a way. If you want to have this product, you got to buy a subscription or a membership, and then you can get into Costco to buy these products. So they're kind of forcing you down a hole. And this is not an unusual sales technique that people have been doing this to you for forever, and to me about different language they use when they're advertising and the must-haves and you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way, and I think her post was very personal for me because I'm trying to find work and I'm getting kind of stonewalled because I don't have a subscription to them. And it's a really good post, and I'm not going to mention her name. If she decides that she wants to allow me to mention her name, I'll get it out there somehow to you. But um, you have to pay for job postings to be seen. This is something when I apply for some jobs out there, and I'm going to get down to the point of this podcast, but I just want to finish up with this. I'll get an email that says, "Hey, we have a job that looks like you're qualified for, fits your, the algorithms work, all the whatever your resume says. This is what this company's looking for." And you're going to click on that job, and they want to charge you to apply. This happens a lot. It's happening a lot more, and it's crazy. I mean, I don't have any money. I'm looking for a job. I've been out of work way too long right now. And all these other people that are out of work, and it's just over and over and over about all these people that are out of work. And that would have been a motorcycle that just went by. Um, they don't have the money to spend on resumes and all these things. Like I've spent money on resumes only to be told that my resume was terrible. And if you do it this way, you're going to get more jobs. And it never works. I mean, I've done it 10 times. I've put my resume through ATS scores, which is this system that tells you how good your resume is or isn't. And it's just ridiculous. So, great post she did. And I told her I was going to do a podcast about it, and I'll send her my podcast so she can check it out. But um, it's just, the basic job search tools are hidden behind a paywall. So if you don't pay for it. So last week, I started this podcast like 4 times. And 2 times I started, I was going to talk about my sales lab and what it is a sales training that seems like everybody's doing. And somebody asked me, why do you think yours is better than others? And I said, well, there's a couple of reasons why I think that. Mine's more of a customizable program. I go and talk to the employer, I talk to the salespeople, and we figure out what's best practice for them, not what's best practice in a cookie cutter, one size fits all sales program, because that's not what they need. They really need someone to come in and just kind of take a look at what they're doing and make some adjustments so they can increase revenue. And I just couldn't get the rhythm. And then I was going to start another podcast, and there was just that day I just could not get the rhythm of speaking. So because I put that, I went online and looked up uh, sales training, and it was like 500 million hits I got on the internet. Well, there's not 500 million ways to sell, but there's a few different ways. And it just goes to show you what's happening out there is these AI generated programs. And I know this for a fact because I went into AI and put in what I wanted to do, and it gave me an entire program with costs and everything. The marketing, how to market it, how to do all these things. But the fact is, it's just a cookie cutter program, and I don't want that. That's not what I'm selling, and I will not sell that because I think it's bad for business. So I put out content on my social media. You guys all see it, I hope, about speaking, about sales, my sales lab, about my podcast, about things like that. So then my algorithms, um, those things come up on my algorithms. I'm closing this out because I want to look at something else. Algorithms. You guys know what algorithms are. Say it simply. If you're online looking at shoes and then you go on Facebook, shoe ads are going to come up, right? It's a marketing ploy to align what you're out there looking for. Um, and you guys know what happens, and you're like, how can these people be listening to you? I was at the gym one day, and this buddy of mine asked me, "Do you wear your wedding ring when you lift?" I said, "I don't because I don't want to bend the ring. Not that I'm that strong, but if I'm gripping something, it could bend the ring on the bottom." And he says, "Hey, have you seen those neoprene uh, wedding rings?" And I said, "I don't think so." And so that day, I finished my workout. I went home and I opened Facebook, and sure enough, here's those neoprene rings. And this was years ago. But I went, whoa, I mean, my phone's listening to me, right? Or I didn't search for them. They started coming up. And eventually they went away. I didn't open their sites or anything. So, they'd get tired of me. But this is what's happening with your dreams. This is kind of the meat of this thing. If you've ever wanted to write a book, or you wanted to start a podcast, or you wanted to get singing lessons, or something that kind of takes you back to those dreams you wanted. See, nobody in that classroom when I was with those little kids said, I want to be an accountant when I get older. You didn't hear that. You didn't say, I want to be a receptionist, or I want to work at Target and, take over Linda's shift on a Saturday night. You don't ever hear that. Now, I'm not insulting those things. I'm just saying this is what happens. We start to forget that we have these dreams and we just start to do things just to survive. But you still have those dreams in your head. And what's happening is because I've mentioned speaking several times on both Facebook and LinkedIn, I get these ads that say, "Look, we can get you paid speaking gigs. We can do this for you. We can do that for you." But you have to use our program. You must use our program. And these are all words that we've heard for many years. When this is the best, we're the best, I'm the best. And I get these kids, no offense to kids, 25 years, 30 years old, that are telling me how to sell, for instance. And I've been doing this for a while. I've been doing it longer than they've been alive. And I am pretty smart when it comes to sales. So I understand what I need to do, but I don't need your program to do it. So I went to a conference a while back and it was on speaking. And this guy got up and he was really charismatic, very good speaker. And he talked about all these things and all this experience he had and all these, people he was connected to and that. And then at the end, of course, comes and if you sign up today, this program is only $12,000. And then he starts going, but you know what? Since you're all here now, and if you sign up right now, if you just give us a credit card number in the back of the room, we'll knock it down to 9,000. And he kept going until he got it down to like $3,600 or something. It's crazy. And then somebody in the audience asked him, "Hey, could I just speak to you after this speech you just did after this class?" And he's like, "You know what? No, I charge $7,500 an hour to talk to clients. So if you want to just if you want to sign up in the back of the room, you can sign up for my $7,500." And then he says, "But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll tell you what I'll do. If you sign up today for the $3,500 program, I'll give you a free hour of my time, which is a $7,500 um, package. So you're actually only spending $3,500 to get a $7,000 thing." So you see where I'm going with this. What really makes me mad is talking about getting told no. They're telling you that you can't do anything without them. Now, I haven't paid a dime to have this podcast and over 200 episodes of this podcast. I have bought lights, I've bought cameras, I've paid for things like that, but nobody taught me how to do a podcast. So if you want to do a podcast, I got news for you. You can do it for free. You want to write a book, you can do it for free. You just need to do a little bit of research. And you know what? As bad as AI can be for some things, this is a good way to use AI. You go on to Chat GPT and say, "I want to write a book. What are the steps to writing a book?" And it'll give you legitimate stuff. It won't give you companies that you have to pay for. It could, but I don't think it would. So what I want you guys to understand is that you have everything inside of you to do anything you want to do. Don't let these programs and these ads and these people tell you and give you this advice that you can't do it without them, because you can absolutely do it without them. Can you imagine if you guys know who Mr. Wonderful is and Kevin, whatever his name is, from the Shark Tank? He worked for Steve Jobs at one time and he hated him. He said he was the worst boss you could ever have. But at the end of the day, he really helped him kind of guide him in a business sense. Can you imagine somebody telling Steve Jobs, and he had a terrible personality, brilliant mind, terrible personality, that he couldn't do something, or that unless he paid you to do it, he couldn't do it? Can you imagine the backlash a guy like Steve Jobs, when he was at his highest level of power, would have done? I've had a couple phone calls in the last couple months talking about going on interviews and said, and I had guys say to me, I'm paraphrasing, of course, Ed, you have a strong personality. You come across a little bit intimidating at times when you start talking about passionately about something. Maybe it's sales, maybe it's operations, and you need to tone it down. If you want to get a job, you need to tone it down. And I'm like, I respect the fact that you tell me that. The fact of the matter is, I'm where I'm at, good or bad, because of my personality. It's what I grew up with. It's how I learned to get things done. And at 63 years old, I'm not going to change my personality. Now, I can be completely tactful with people, not cuss, not do those things, be very polite, but I also know what I'm doing. So if I'm up against a situation and I read that situation correctly, which I think I do 90% of the time, maybe 99, and I say this is what has you have to do to get it done, and people resist it, they're just resisting getting something done. This happened in a chamber. This happened in the Knights of Columbus. They didn't necessarily like my delivery, but the delivery was right. And if they followed what I told them, we'd be successful. And we were. And it's the ones I ran up against that just said, no, I've been doing it this way for 20 years, and that's the death. That is the death stab of the world. I've been doing it 20 years, and we're going to keep doing it that way because that's what works. Do you think something's changed in the last 20 years? Anything? I mean, maybe technology a little bit, maybe the way we do business, maybe the way we bring products to the market. Everything has changed. People have gone from, I saw a post today that if you're texting a millennial and you use punctuation like a question mark or quotes or things like that, they will. This is a linguist that was talking about this, that they tend to take that negatively because they're so used to doing these quick messages and using abbreviations and acronyms and things that they get insulted when you use punctuation. Is that the craziest thing you've ever heard? We grew up with punctuation. We learned how to write. We learned how to handwrite. We learned all these things. We learned how to write a letter. If you use AI to write a Facebook post which I do, or a cover letter, which I do, you have to read what you wrote because it's not always correct. It's not always grammatically correct. If I even said that right, grammatically, I don't think I said it right, but the grammar is incorrect. The punctuation sometimes is incorrect. They use long dashes. They use some other things that you really need to take out of there. They can write a beautiful email for you or host, but you have to go back over it. It's not perfect by any means. And there's certain things that you just need to write on your own, depending on what it is. You wouldn't write a letter to your wife using AI. I hope not. I wouldn't sleep with her if that happened because she'd probably cover your head with a pillow. So I would, you got to pick your battles or pick, when you're using AI. So these programs that come up are AI generated programs, like these speaking ones or the sales ones, or and all these things. And they'll just go into AI because I did this as an experiment, put in what I wanted to do, and it'll kick it back. So then there's these big companies out there that sell these programs to, Joe here, and then Joe advertises them on Facebook or LinkedIn or Spotify, wherever. And you know this because they have these uh, oh, what am I trying to say? They have these marketplaces where you can, put different products on, and then that marketplace sells you a program, tells you how to do it, and says this will work. This is a proven thing that you can use, and you'll sell tons of stuff, and you'll make $10,000 next week. Well, you won't make $10,000 next week because if you could do that, everybody'd be doing that. So my point to you is not necessarily about those products. It's about being told you can't do something. It's getting bad advice. And I know a lot of you just go on Facebook and, post pictures of your family and things and that's awesome. I have more friends in high school than I had on Facebook than I had in high school. And I'm super happy about that. I'm glad about that. I like posting things about my kids when I'm proud of them and when they do something or it's their birthday or they they have some special occasion. I love doing that. I love sharing that with my friends. And even though I don't know everybody on my Facebook page, I have over almost 5,000 friends. I don't know all those 5,000 friends, but I know enough of them that I want to share that news with them. And that I love that about social media. Do I love the invasiveness? I don't really care. I don't do anything. I don't talk about politics. I don't talk about anything like that. So they're not being invasive to me. I'll tell you if my leg hurts, I'll tell you. It's not like they have to figure it out and then go out and tell everybody their leg hurts. So, but the point, like I said, I want to make to you is that you can do anything you want, and there's still time. Um, the technology allows you to do it faster, which is awesome. It allows you to put it in a package, which is awesome. I made some business journals for free on Amazon and sold them, and I sold about 25 or 30 of them. I wish I would have sold 3,000, but it was kind of an experiment to see how easy it was to do, and it was actually really easy to do. So don't abandon those dreams. If you still want to do something, it's not too late. If you want to open a business or you want to do something, the nice thing about if you wanted to open a small business and you don't have a lot of uh, capital or something like that, and you just want to sell something, then you can do that. You know, I'm sure most of you people know my wife, and she, in an effort to heal after the loss of our grandson, she started making blankets and she crochets them. And she asked people online to donate yarn, and people overwhelmingly gave her yarn through Amazon. And she's got like 15 blankets or something downstairs that we're calling about today to go down and donate these to kids at Children's Hospital. Didn't cost her anything. People were generous. She had started some blankets already. Um, it's her therapy. She sits there and she can crochet really fast, so it didn't take up much time. And it's her time anyway to kind of just kick it and do her thing. Anything you want to start, and like I said, Facebook and LinkedIn, maybe not LinkedIn, but Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, this is a good place to sell something if you make something. My daughter has a business. She makes earrings and she sells a lot online. And now that she's has some momentum, she's got a lot. She's like the last time I talked to her, she had like 60 locations she had these earrings in. And it's kind of her therapy too. She's very entrepreneurial. So it was kind of her thing. But man, do not abandon these dreams. You guys, you have too much going for you to do that. Um, and this unsolicited bullshit advice, don't take it. Don't listen to it. If someone says you can't do or something, don't listen to them. That's probably because they can't do it, or they won't do it, or they won't put the time in. I told you I go to the gym at 5 in the morning. And when I tell people that, they look at me like I got two heads. I mean, they're like out of their mind. How can you do that? That's not for me, blah, 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 which is fine. It is for me. And there's people that I see there every week that are dedicated to be there at 5 o'clock in the morning. Maybe they have something to do. Maybe they just want to get a good start in the morning. If you listen to what I listen to, you'd probably think I'm a whack job too, because I don't listen to music. I listen to speeches, trying to hone my skills and trying to get, some motivation. Excuse me. I need to take a drink. So, you know, you don't lose your spark on the things that you want to do in life. There's still time. You still have the knowledge. You're not starting from square one, by the way. I mean, if you're even close to my age or half my age, you've already got a lot of experience. You're not starting over. Some people like to tell jokes. Some people like whatever. There's all kinds of these platforms that you can find that don't cost anything that you can just put out there. If you want to do a podcast and you got a cell phone, you have everything you need to do a podcast, by the way. It's a little harder, but it can be done, and you could grow into something, that's even better than that. So it's this chaos of unsolicited advice. And these people that had called me and said that to me, I understand they did it with the biggest heart and they really want to help me. I get it. The thing is, though, when you have a personality like mine, it's difficult to pull back, right? I mean, I could stand there and not say anything. Of course, if I do that, then I get accused of looking like I'm going to kill somebody because apparently I have this resting bitch face that people get intimidated about too. I was told that by somebody once that I was at a networking event and I was kind of standing, I got there early and I was standing against the wall and I kind of just had this, I wasn't smiling or anything. And the girl came up to me and a friend of mine and said, "Man, you look like you're going to kill somebody." I said, "Oh, no." And I said, "Hey, how you doing? Good to see you." And she says, "Man, when you're not smiling or you're not, coming up to somebody with your eyes wide open and things like that, you look kind of scary." And I said, "Well, I mean, I don't know what to do about that. That's how I look. I'm not small." Um, Somebody told I was working for this company years ago, and they told the owners that I was intimidating because I would walk around the office, and I think I walked a little fast. And I mean, as in sales, I'm trying to generate stuff, and they mentioned to me that in the meeting, and I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do? I can't shrink. I mean, I'd love to shrink a little bit, but I can't stop being who I am." So, like I said, I appreciate people being concerned enough to me to say, "Hey, you could be coming across like this." I had an interview a while back that I killed. I mean, I had two interviews. One, the guy was just that we got to hire him right now. But then I had an interview with the president of the company, and this was the VP I was talking to at first. And when we got down to the end of the interview, she had mentioned what the pay was, and I kind of challenged her on the pay and said, "Wow, that's really excruciatingly low." And I used that term. And her whole personality changed. Like, "Well, we're a nonprofit." And I said, "Well, I wasn't insulting you. I just said it's really for the job description and the hours and all that stuff. If you calculate it out, it's pretty low pay." And she never got back to me or anything. Obviously, I didn't get the job. But it's funny because her demeanor changed when I did that because I think she felt like I was challenging her. But all we were doing is having a conversation. And man, good Lord, if you got your feelings sticking out that far and your feelings get hurt from being questioned, don't you question everybody in an interview? Or you just sit there and go, yes, 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 and have no questions? I always have questions about a job. There's particular things that will cost me more money. If I'm not getting a car allowance and I have to pay for a car, then I have to calculate that in my brain. I'm calculating what that's going to cost me. And now is the pay good or is not? You can get paid $1 million a year, but if it costs you $990,000 to do the job, you're getting paid 10,000 a year. So that's just one of those things. So I said this podcast is about you guys. It's about I think social media is incredible. It's awesome. It's from when I was a kid, it's unimaginable that we'd even be in this situation. But understand that not everybody out there is your friend, right? You're going to get information. They had this thing the other day where you could submit your podcast for like a contest. So I went on, I started doing it. It's $2,500 for me to submit my podcast. That's insane. That's crazy. The money should be coming from sponsorships or something else, not from the podcaster. Most podcasters like me, we don't make any money doing this. I'm doing it to promote other things that I'm in my life. I'm doing it to promote my speaking. I'm doing it to promote my sales lab. Would I like to monetize it? Of course I would. But I need guests. I need high-end guests, or I need to be on a high-end, podcast to get my name out there. Something I was thinking about the other day, I was listening to these motivational things I always listen to, and I figured out that all these top guests out there, like Joe Rogan, Mel Robbins, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's 100 of them that are just getting paid millions of dollars to do a podcast. All good, great podcasts, by the way. Smart people, got good stories. I am absolutely no different than they are. I'm sending out the same message they're sending. Joe Rogan was a celebrity. I obviously don't have that status, but he gets the guests, right? So they put a lot of money into his podcast and he can get the big guests. And kudos to him. He's killing it out there. Mel Robbins, same thing. She was a celebrity before. at some level in the media. I think she worked for CNN. So I, I'm not insulting them at all. I'm saying that I have as many or more good stories to tell people out there. I just need to get a platform to do it where I can, get my name out there, and it has to be relevant to what's going on, right? I think that my audience should be people my age, but not big podcast listeners, by the way. But that doesn't mean I'm stopping. I'll figure out a way to skin this cat, just like you are going to figure out a way to get your dreams back on track. Even if you just sat down at night instead of watching Netflix for a half an hour, just start writing your book or start telling stories that you have in your life. I know all you guys have awesome stories because every human has an awesome story. This is why I love talking to people because they all know something I don't know and they teach me things. I learn stuff from a 5-year-old child. They'll tell me things that I don't know. I know more about uh, not cartoons, but like superheroes than I ever wanted to ever know because of my grandson and my granddaughter. All these things about production and history and all these things, I just didn't really grow up. I wish I wasn't into that when I was a kid. We had comic books, of course, not what they have now and all this gaming platform stuff. But so listen, you can always just send an email to me, edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com, and say, hey, Ed, I have this deal. I mean, I got this idea. And I just wanted to bounce it off you. I would love to get an email like that from one of you guys that are listening. And and kind of help and let me kind of say, hey, well, I'll never tell you you can't do something. Believe me. Unless you want to play in the NBA and you're 65 years old and 5 foot, tall, I probably would steer you away from that. But if you want to write a book, or if you wanted to do a cartoon, or if you wanted to do a kid's book, or something like that, or go get singing lessons or dancing lessons. I have a friend of mine that takes guitar lessons online every Friday morning. It's something he's always wanted to do, and he does it. Now, he has to pay for that. Of course, you got to pay a teacher. And I'm not saying these programs out there aren't worth paying for. I'm just saying to be really cautious because most of them are just cookie cutter programs that are being regurgitated, through 55, 60 people. A friend of mine the other day said, how's the speaking thing going? I said, well, I'm working on it. I'm trying to get booked at places and I'm sending offers out there and that. And they said, have you ever gone to the speaker bureau? There's these speaker bureaus online. So I said, no, I haven't. So I'll do that. So I go on there and they ask you a lot of questions like, what do you speak about? You know, this and that. And then they show all the speakers and they're all these professional headshots and they all look the same and they're all sitting there with that look, that sideways look. And they all look like they're AI uh, generated, like they would take the lines out of my face and things like that. You know what? I don't want the lines out of my face. The lines on my face are because of the stories I want to tell you. Believe me, I want authentic. I want organic, and that's what I think people really want. They don't want some guy or gal that's just gone to one of these speaking labs and did exactly what they said and speak like a robot. I want people to tell me stories. This Jocko Willemick, he's a Navy SEAL. He tells stories about when he was in the SEALs that blow you away. I mean, I can't even. And then he takes that story, takes the fundamental like thing out of it, and applies it to business. That's smart. See, that's what I'd like to listen to. Now, I can't relate to a SEAL except when he tells me a story. I'm thinking, I watched a movie with someone in it. This guy is real life, man. He was real. He was there getting real bullets shot at him. So he's a kind of a guy like that's not the realm I would want to be in. But I definitely have some foundational things that I could talk about when it comes to business and personal life that could help you, that could help people. My real mission is to help people be better versions of themselves, right? We keep getting told who we are, and we shouldn't be, we have to tell people who we are. I have a there's an author that I listened to, and he said about the Catholic Church. You can think what you want about the Catholic Church, but he says The problem with Catholics is they're letting the media tell them who they are and not the other way around, right? It's the same with you. You need to be telling people who you are. You need to be walking like you want and talking like you want, making more money if you want, losing weight if you want. Those are the things you should be doing, not having people tell you, you know what, you can't lose weight, but if you take this pill, you'll lose weight. If you take this pill, you'll make money. If you take this pill, stop taking pills, right? Is it going to be easy, whatever you get into? I don't think so. Probably not. You want it bad enough? It's up to you, right? It's up to you. So if you want to write that book or dance or go get dancing lessons or do whatever, there's plenty of options out there for you to go do. The fact of the matter is, if you want to be a better dancer, just close your blinds and dance in the living room. Who cares? Go online, go to a YouTube, uh, go on YouTube and just search for dance lessons, and they'll give you dance lessons for free. It's all out there. What I'm trying to get you to do is not die regretting the things you didn't do. That bothers me most. Is that I get, God forbid, I'm been put in that box and everybody's going, man, Ed really wanted to be a speaker, but he never did it. Or he really wanted to do this, or he really wanted to do that. I started this podcast a few years ago, and like I said, I have over 200 episodes now. Before you know it, it's going to be 1,000 episodes because I'm doing a lot more podcasts than I did before. I'm not the perfect example, but I'm telling you that you can do whatever you want to do. So if you're out there looking for work, don't go on LinkedIn. It's all bad news, and network with your friends, do whatever you got to do to try to find that job. I hope you're having a good summer. I hope that you know that there's a future. I don't care who the politician is in charge. I don't care what's going on in the economy. If you want to do something, start now. Promise yourself today that you're going to do whatever you decided you were going to do and go do it. Right? Write that book, write that story, learn to dance, lose weight, work out. You don't need to go to a gym to work out. You can go for a walk. There's plenty of exercises you can do that use your body weight, and you can go on YouTube and find out what those are. You don't have to get a subscription to YouTube. Just go on and search them. We cook really good food at our house, and it doesn't cost, it's a just a fraction of what it would cost in a restaurant. Because we go online and say, what do you want for dinner? And we go online and put, tri-tip in or something. And I got to cook it on a Weber because I don't have a gas barbecue right now. So how do you cook it on a Weber? And boom, we have a great tri-tip. The resources are out there. Um, Enjoy Facebook. Enjoy these social programs to put positive things out in the world. If you want to put negative stuff out there, don't. Don't put your politics online. No one cares, really. And all you're going to do is alienate some of you. You're going to say one thing and alienate your friends. Why do that? Life's too short to argue. So listen, I'm going to wrap this up. I hope you got the point that you all have intrinsic value in life. I've told you this before. You're a 1 in 400 trillion miracle, and you all have something to give back. And it can be a plethora of things. You just decide what you want to do and go do it and have some fun and enjoy it. I know you're good at it. You just need to go out and do it. Don't tell me you can't. I hate that. My mom hated that. When we said, oh, you can't do something in our household, we got talked to. So anyway, thank you for listening. It's edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com if you want to get a hold of me, or you can call me or go on my social media. And I know I was rambling a lot during this podcast, but you know what? That's what podcasts are for. They're for rambling. So you can always contact me in 100 different ways. I know the negativity is deafening sometimes on social media, but you don't need anybody to fulfill your dreams except you. You have it in you. You can do it. And if you want advice or you want encouragement, get a hold of me and I'll give you both of those. Have a great week, great weekend, and stay safe.